the 5 stages of my burnout. At first, there were some red flags that I didn't see or chose to ignore. Then things got worse. I was sliding towards burning out. Then I hit rock bottom. Then there was a key learning that I had that triggered my recovery. And then the 5th phase is when I talk about what I do today to stay healthy. But if you're interested in that, you should do my online course. So, what were the first red flags that I chose to ignore? There were changes in everyday things that I normally do well or like to do. For example, sleeping. I'm very good at sleeping. My wife thinks I have a black belt in sleeping, and she actually hates me because I can go to bed and lie down and fall asleep in 1 minute. She can't. Several times she woke me up because she still was talking to me, but I already fell asleep. That started to change in the first phase of my burnout. I couldn't fall asleep because I was thinking about work, projects and things that I needed to do in order to fall asleep. I could not turn off what's going on in my head. The other thing is I had a change in habits when things that I like to do, I didn't like doing anymore. I didn't enjoy them. For me, that was cooking. I really like to experiment with different types of recipes, but during that phase, I was very blunt, and it was often pasta with finished tomato sauce, or we ordered in pizza or went to McDonald's. We didn't take care of a balanced diet, which is very important for me normally. Then getting worse. What do you think happened when I started to get worse? Correct. I started to sleep even less. And not only did I have problems falling asleep, but also I woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't fall asleep again. I had weeks that I went a couple of nights without sleeping more than maybe 3-4 hours. The other thing was that my self-care routine was completely neglected. Normally I like to go running. I didn't do that anymore. I used to go to the gym on a regular basis, but for all these things I didn't seem to have time anymore. And also reading is something that I enjoy doing. I didn't enjoy it in that period of time, and it became a bit of an issue because basically I had zero work-life balance. Because I was burning out, because I wasn't doing well, there were a couple of questions at work about my performance, which then gave me existential fears. I was really concerned about the livelihood. The base of our income was in jeopardy. We just bought the apartment, my twins were still very young, and I felt like if I would lose my job, we as a family would be in a lot of trouble. The problem that I had most though is that I lost all sense of control over my life. Everything that I did was a have to do, nothing that I wanted to do. Everything was something that I had to do, a must, a task on some list that I had to somehow manage. And that was a big issue for me because I like to be in control of things in general, especially over my life, but also about the tasks that I do, and I didn't seem to manage to arrange that in a way that I can say, yes, these are the things that I actually like doing and want to do. Everything was a task to do. Then I hit rock bottom. We went on holiday to Spain, to Malaga. That's a place I wanted to go to because from Malaga you can combine a nice beach holiday with doing some cultural things, visit some nice cities. We were planning to go to Sevilla, to Cordoba, to Gibraltar, and all of these things didn't happen because I completely crashed. The first 2 nights I slept more than 12 hours, and then during the holiday I didn't want to do anything. I managed to go down to the pool max, even though the beach was maybe 150 meters away from the hotel. And of course, all these fancy day trips that I wanted to do initially, we didn't do. Didn't do a single trip. Then before coming back, the last 2 nights, I didn't sleep at all again. I was concerned, I was worried about going into the same environment back to where I was obviously feeling very uncomfortable. And this is when my wife said, Andy, something is wrong. Normally you sleep well, normally you enjoy your holiday, normally you like doing things, normally you have the energy to do these things, but all of that didn't happen. But as soon as we're getting back to Basel, Switzerland, you are going to see your doctor. We arrived back home, I went to see my doctor, and he very clearly said that I suffer from a exhaustion depression, or as we call it today, burnout. That was a very relieving diagnosis that I got. Somebody else allowed me to be sick, to be off work. I got a sick note for 2 weeks, which extended then to 7 months. When I was at my doctor, he asked me a question that made me realize how serious this can be. He asked me if I have suicidal thoughts. Luckily, I could say no. I was very grumpy, I was very down, I didn't have energy, but I didn't want to hurt myself. I wanted to kill my boss, but that's a different story. What we then discussed was how to approach this, how to deal with the situation. We talked about going into a clinic. He thought maybe we should try first with a therapist, which I saw then on a weekly basis. And we also didn't try to work with medication at that time, and luckily I managed to do that without any medication. So the road we went down was that I would see a therapist on a weekly basis to work on different issues. I was very lucky to find a therapist on very short notice, and that we were a fit. I really liked working with her, she seemed to manage to work with me, and that's something I know I can consider myself very fortunate, because I know that's not necessarily the case for everybody. I'm half English, which means that we don't talk about feelings, don't open up to others, family members, let alone others. So the visit to my therapist was weird, it was very strange. The first few times I felt uncomfortable. So this was somewhat an issue, but because I liked her and the chemistry was there, it worked. But opening up and talking about your feelings is weird, especially when you're not used to that. I'm also a guy, we don't talk about these kind of things, right? We looked at many things in the sense of my personality, what kind of person I am, what kind of an environment I would like to work in, what kind of an environment would fit my personality best, and all these kind of things around what is best for me. And that was very interesting, because in general I never took a step back and thought, what I'm doing now, is that what I want to do, and is that in the environment, in the company and all that stuff, is that what I really want to do and what I'm good at? I never did this exercise, so that was very, very helpful. In my online course we will look at exactly these few things to help you visualize and go through the thought processes that I went through. As I said, I was 7 months on sick leave in total at the end. After about 3-4 months, I got a call from HR, and they were saying, okay, Andy, you've been on sick leave now. How are you doing? What about coming back to work? In what capacity? Would you like to come back to that department? Would you like to come back in a different capacity? Let's have a chat. Luckily at the time I was feeling a bit bored at home and thought, yes, I'm ready to start my reintegration. For me it was clear that I would not do my reintegration in the department that I burnt out in. And luckily I was working for that company for about 15 years before I fell sick. And luckily it was a large company, so I could easily, well, not easily, but I could I had the options to look for my reintegration in different departments, and through my network, which was wide because I was working for a long time in this company, was very big, and I could find a very good place for my reintegration. Also this, I'm aware that this is not a given, and I know that I was very, very fortunate. In April 2017 then, I could start this job 50%. 50% is very high. Normally, my case manager said that this would be a very high percentage to start working with. Normally people would start with 20 or 30%. But I was replacing somebody who went on a sabbatical for a year, and they needed somebody in that capacity. And I knew the person, the manager of that department, and she knew me, and I knew that this could work. What do you think is the most important thing when you start your reintegration? It is to rebuild your self-confidence, because obviously that was in the toilet at the time. So in the department where I burnt out, I was used to working with large Excel sheets, with some macros, with pivot tables and all that kind of stuff. The first few steps in my reintegration were literally adding up 10 numbers in Excel. It was very, very small steps, which I think are key to have a successful reintegration into the workforce. Remember, the goal of reintegration is to establish that you can work again and that you can fully work again to the capacity that you've been working before. My reintegration at work went extremely well. Every month I could add 10%, and then in October 2017 I was working 100% again. By the end of the year, the company offered me a different position because the person on sabbatical came back. And that was a chance that I took to leave the company. I decided against the position that was offered because my wife did a re-education during her maternity leave or long-term maternity leave, and she went to work and I stayed home with the kids. During my reintegration, I was still working with my therapist. It went extremely well, and we were doing things like a SWOT analysis for myself. I did a lot of SWOT analysis at work for business cases and so on, but never for myself. And that was a very interesting experience to think about what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, what's a threat to me, how do I deal with that, and so on. A very interesting discussion that we had is when I was feeling better, I said to her that I want to do this, I want to do that, and on top of this I want to do that as well. And then she went, "Oh, stop, Andy. You're just about getting better. Don't you think you want to pace yourself and not do too many things?" And I thought, "No, I'm Andy, I'm fit again, I can do all these things." And she said, "Let's go down to the street." So we left her office and went down to the street, and she pointed at the car. And I looked at the car and thought, "What should I do with this car?" And she said, "Lift it up." I was very surprised, and obviously I couldn't lift up this car, and I said that to her. And then she goes, "Aha, you're aware that your physical strength has a limit. Why do you think that your mental capacity and strength is limitless? We all have a plate in front of ourselves, and we are the ones deciding what goes on it and how much of what goes on this plate." And this was the turning point in my recovery. The realization that I'm responsible for my life. I'm the one who has to take charge. I'm the one behind the steering wheel. I was sick and tired of complaining about my boss, complaining about work, and all the things around me. I was done finger pointing. And that was the key moment in my recovery when I realized that I have to take charge. With this, I would like to move to the 3 reasons why I burnt out. As I mentioned before, the staying healthy part is basically my online course. Please visit that if you're interested in that. And see you in the next clip when I talk about the 3 reasons why I burnt out. See you soon.